Hello, YouTubers. Hello. You know who I am. This is AJ Copeland, and this is Topics to Go. So, what's today's topic? Today's topic is: should you have a roommate? Should you have a roommate? Now, I'm going to make this as short as I can, but there's so much to cover. Okay, should you have a roommate? Now, there are pros and cons to having a roommate. The first thing I want to say is if you're going to have roommates, your goal should be to invest in each other, to be a help to one another. That should be the reason why you feel that it's necessary to have a roommate. If you're having a roommate and nothing is happening for you, in other words, you're not being able to save any money, or you're not able to do the things that you want to accomplish, like buy a new car or buy a computer for school, or have a savings account, or buy some clothes that you've never been able to buy, or those type of things. If you don't have any goals set for the reason why you should have a roommate, then having a roommate may not be in your best interest, because you should always have a reason to why, and that is to invest. And the person that becomes your roommate should have that same attitude. In other words, you both should be willing to invest in each other, to help each other out. So that should be the reasoning to why you would want a roommate. Now, another reason why many of us desire a roommate is because what? We want to live in a better environment. We want to have a better place to live. So that's another reason why many of us desire to want a roommate. Now, I don't know about you, but I have lived in what we call the hood, and I've lived in the suburbs, and I lived in kind of medium type of environments, kind of like middle class. So I've had an experience of all. Now, what I have, where I haven't lived, is out in Buckhead. I'm just gonna be honest, and I'm talking about where you paying rent of three to four thousand dollars a month in rent or mortgage, and sometimes 10 to 15,000 a month. So those are the areas that I have not lived in, the areas of the billionaires and the millionaires. Okay, but I've had the opportunity to live in some nice areas, but I've also lived in the hood. Okay, so we're going to talk about today the pros and cons to having a roommate. Now, there are several points that I want to make in the beginning when you trying to debate or you having conversations with other people about becoming roommates. These are the things that you should outline. You don't have to do in an alphabetical order. They're just things that you should consider when you talking about rooming with somebody. What is the first thing you should think about? The first thing you should, let me say this first. Let me put this out here. The notion of thinking that the best roommates to have are individuals that are family members or individuals that you've known for long periods of time, I want to just tell you right now that that's not always the case. Okay? And now I'm not saying go and move in with a total stranger either, but I just want to let you know that just because somebody is your family member or they are a best friend that you've known for many years, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make the best roommates. So I want to just put that out there in the atmosphere right now, because I know that a lot of people believe, oh, I've been knowing, you get on the phone with individuals and y'all go to talking, of all the things you're going to do once you become roommates, and they're going to pay that bill and you're going to pay this bill and y'all going to help each other. I mean, this is a conversation that's going on. But you know how many people have had those type of conversations with individuals, and then when they move together, it becomes a total mess? Yes, it happens just like that. So you got to understand that there has to be a separation, between business and personal. And whenever you're doing business with somebody, especially when it involves privacy and finances, there needs to be a contract. So the first point I want to make is that you should have a contract. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're family members, friends, whoever. If you're going to go into talk about moving together and living together, there needs to be a contract on what each individual is willing to do and what they're not willing to do. It needs to be a contract, because if you have to go to court because they bail out on you, you have that as well as the lease. You have that as proof as well that they agreed to pay this or they agreed to pay that. So that's the first thing you need to have, is you need to have a contract. The second thing I want you to keep in mind as you debate, talk about, consider having a roommate is that you don't want to have a roommate that has interest in you. Okay, you don't want a roommate that's somebody that's been trying to get with you for years, been wanting a relationship with you, and you've been turning them down and turning them down and turning them down, and all of a sudden they say, "Oh, we can just be friends," but at the same time they're still trying to pursue you. In other words, they haven't never got over you. They assume that if they become your roommate, that would give them more of an opportunity to have a chance to sleep with you. So they kind of come behind the back door to try to manipulate you and becoming your roommate, so they can have another shot at trying to be intimate with you or develop a relationship or take it farther than what you would like. So it's very dangerous to consider getting involved with somebody that continue to have an interest in you, and they're not willing to let up. And when I say let up, that means they start treating you like a friend and not like somebody they want, or not like somebody that's pretending that y'all are in some type of intimate relationship when actually you're not. And because if you do find yourself becoming a roommate with that type of person, when you bring individuals over that you are interested in, you're going to have major problems with that person. So you don't want to do that. So keep that in mind. The next point that I would like to make when you talking about having a roommate is that you need to know something about the person. You need to know more than their nicknames. You need to know more than Bookie, Black, and Sequita, and all the first name bases and the nickname bases and what the friends call them. You need to know first and last name. I'm talking about you need to know their government name. A lot of times people get involved with individuals and become roommates with people they don't even know their name. They just know them by nicknames and they become roommates. You need to know everything that you can know about this person, because you are sharing personal and private things with this individual. They know everything about your life because you're both living in the same dwelling. You dwell together in the same house. So you need to know more than just nicknames. You need to know first and last names, right? Then you need to know their association. You need to know their friends. Who are their friends? A lot of times people get into roommates with people and they don't even know their friends. They don't even know who they socialize with. They don't even know any of their family members. They just know the roommate. And that's not always a good thing, because sometimes it's good to know who your roommates are socializing with. Why do I say that? Because if you move if y'all move together and they're socializing with thieves, crooks, drug addicts, pimps, socializing with individuals in the trap and people that bring danger around in their lives and whatever, and they coming in and out your house and you don't know these individuals, that's how a lot of things come up missing. And then next thing you know, you and your roommate are at each other's throat because things have come up missing, and it's because your roommate have brought people into the house that you know nothing about. So it's good to know who they socialize with. You don't have to know everybody, but you need to know the persons that are more serious, that they are good friends or they're best friends or whatever. You need to have some type of encounter or interaction with these individuals. All right, so you need to know their association. That's important that you know who they socialize with. All right. Now, other things that I would like to mention as we talk about this thing, should you have a roommate, is that you don't want to. You need to look at their work habit. Okay. You need to know, can they keep a job? I'll give you an example. If you know of somebody that let's say for instance, they have just started their job. Well, they've been on their job a month or 2 months, or they've been on the job 3 weeks, or they've been on the job 2 weeks, and all of a sudden they say, "Hey, I got a job now. We can become roommates," because you already had your job and now you was waiting on them to get a job, and then they got a job and now they call you and say, "Hey, now I got a job. We can become roommates." And you get all excited because now they have a job. But having a job It's nothing if they can't keep the job. And so you need to know some history about their work habits, ethics. How long how long have they worked their last job before that one? If you find an individual that only been working their jobs months at a time and have never stayed on one job 1 year, that's a flag. Because what usually happens is that they're going to move in with you and then they're going to lose their job and you're right back where you started from, because now you got bills all on you and you're the only one working and they're not working because they can't keep a job. So you need to make sure that that person has some type of history of keeping a job, because you want a good roommate. And I know all these, you might like, are you for real? I mean, I got to check. Yes. Because as I said before, this is serious. Having a roommate is serious. You all are sharing each other's personal business. You know everything about each other. You know the company that each other keep. You know when you're in a relationship, when you're out of a relationship. You know the money that has been spent, because every time you go shopping and bring bags in, they know you got money. They know you're spending money. You know the budget of what you can afford, what you cannot afford. You know a lot of personal things about each other. So it's very important that you understand and that you know that it's very important to know who your roommate is. So you definitely want somebody that's going to keep a job. Another thing that you may not even thought about is, if you don't want to be roommates, my suggestion is you don't want to be roommates with someone that just party all the time. Individuals that stay in the club consistently, do drugs, alcohol, sex addicts, any things of those sorts, where they just, to the extreme, do things over and above, outside, the norm, you might not want to have them as roommates, because usually when someone party all the time and in the club every time the door is open, or having multiple individuals over to your place to sleep and have sex with, these type of people usually don't keep jobs. They're usually lazy because they have a lot going on in their lives and they can't focus on the things that are most important. And that's what you don't need, and that's what you don't want. And why do I say things like this? Why am I saying this? I'm not saying that individuals cannot enjoy their life and go to clubs sometimes and drink a little bit, but when you start talking about drugs, that's a whole nother ball game. Me personally, I wouldn't deal with anybody that deal with drugs, period. Okay, that's how I feel. And if they do these things to the extreme, I guarantee you they cannot keep a job. They will not maintain a job. Okay, and so in order for a roommate plan to work, both parties got to be willing to work all the time, consistently, in order for you to reach your goals and your objectives. Because as I said earlier, you all are investing in one another. You're helping one another reach your goals. And if someone cannot keep their job, that cannot happen, because you're back and forth, back and forth. Now, if you got two people that are the same and they both doing the same thing, I ain't even got to tell you how that's going to turn out. It's not going to work. They're going to move from one place to the next place to the next place. You ever run across these people? Every time you turn around, they're living in a different location or a different place. Now, I can understand if a person is by themselves and they're trying to maintain life by themselves. That may happen because they're forever trying to find the cheaper rent. But when you got individuals that have roommates and they're dealing with that, that's because you have two people or several people that are doing the same things and they cannot maintain housing. But in order for you to do anything else in your life, as far as maintaining a job and reaching your goals, you have to have stable housing. It is so important. I have never met so many homeless individuals in my life. Now, granted, there are some things that happen in life that will put you in that place that you have no control over, those unforeseen circumstances. But there are situations that people have made life bad for themselves with the decisions that they have made. So I want you to consider all these things as we talk about should you have a roommate. You don't want a roommate that can't keep a job, and you don't want a roommate that's partying all the time, and you don't want a roommate that have multiple individuals that they're having sex with on a consistent basis, that they bring it over to the place, because when things come up missing, you're going to have a problem. So I want you to keep those things in mind as it relates to having a good roommate, because it can work. It can work. If you have two people working together for the same reason and goals, it can work. Now, what I've learned in life, is that when we start talking about, I want to live in a nice place. I want to live in a nice environment. I tell people that it is not the area that corrupts the community. It's the people. Okay? And when people have a ghetto mentality, a weak mentality, it's going to show abroad throughout the community, because they won't take care of the people that own homes, don't take care of their houses. Let me tell y'all a little history, and I'm trying not to make this video so long, but I want to talk about just a little bit about the economics and why we have the various communities and ghettos and different things. You got to understand something here, is that a lot of the elders, our elders that have lived for many, many, many years, many of them have died and left their houses behind to the next generation and the next generation. And what happened when you get drugs and illegal activities that get into a certain community, they lose their homes. And then you have brokers and investors come in and they buy up all the properties that is in the areas where everything has gone down. And they rent to individuals, like people that are struggling and trying to make it up. But the rent is at a place where you still cannot afford it, and you're still struggling. So I can go on and on and on, but it would take too long. And since I'm talking about this topic, I don't want to go to another topic. But I will talk about that, the economics and how it works within the community, and how things operate, as it relates to how we live and how we survive. But I want to tell you, it's important that we learn to come together. We talk about that all the time, how it's important that we come together. And roommate is a very perfect example of how you can become a benefit when you room. What I don't understand is when you have multiple individuals living in the same place. I give you an example. I had a friend that he had 3 other roommates. And it was 2 working and 2 wasn't working. And I'm not even going to call it, because I'm going to stop calling individuals roommates. If you're not contributing, you're not a roommate. So I'm going to stop calling individuals that don't contribute a roommate. You're only a roommate when you contribute, not just because you live with somebody. Do you contribute? That's the point. Do you contribute food? Do you contribute money? Do you pay a bill? What are you doing? Okay? That determines if you're a roommate. If you're not doing anything and you're just living there, you're not a roommate. So let me rephrase that, okay? Now, so I had this friend that had about, I think he had 3 roommates besides himself, right? There was 2 working and 2 wasn't working. So one day I went over to his house. Me and him, I met him at a bus stop or whatever, and we went to his house. And when we got there, when I tell you that house was a mess, it was a mess, right? And he was involved with one individual. They were together. And then the other individual was just someone that was there. And then the other one, the 3rd person, was at work, working part-time, I think. When we got to that place, it was so filled that he was so embarrassed until he just started cleaning up. He started cleaning up the kitchen and cleaning up the living room. And I said, well, where's your boyfriend? Where's your friend? Where's your whatever, And he says, he's back in the room. I said, he's back in the room. Okay. He's back in the room. So why hasn't he cleaned? Why are you cleaning up again? I couldn't understand. Why? What? And where's the other guy? Well, he's okay. So you're the one. Okay. So why aren't they helping you? Why aren't they? You see what I'm saying? He comes from work. He's worked and he's come home and he having to clean. And you got 2 people living there. Neither one of them working, but they're not cleaning up. So the house is filthy. Me personally, I wouldn't tolerate that. That's crazy. But that's what goes on. And so that's another thing you want to consider. It's not moving with somebody that is filthy. You know, they got to be willing to clean. I don't care if they, a lot of people say, well, it's my bedroom is my private space. No, if you don't clean up your bedroom and you eat in your bedroom and leave food all over, that means that develop roaches, and roaches will come out your bedroom, okay? Other critters will come out the bedroom. So if your bedroom is filthy and everything else is clean, then the roaches are going to come out your bedroom and smell or whatever else because you're not keeping your room clean. Let me get rid of something right quick. A lot of people feel like just because they are paying rent, half of the rent or a percentage of the rent, or helping with food or helping with lights or whatever the case may be, that they should have the right to do whatever, anything. Well, that's not the case, because it's all about respect, equal respect. And it's all about doing what's right. At the end of the day, we all got to live in this place. It's not just about you. You have to consider the other person. That's why, being roommates, you have to always consider the other person. It's all about respect. So just because you don't clean your room doesn't mean it's not going to affect the person that does clean their room. It's important. Just because you bring a person over and put them and sneak them in your bedroom doesn't mean it's not going to affect the person that doesn't have anybody over and sneak them in the bedroom. Now, this is different when you start talking about relationships. Now, when people are in relationships, they are a couple. They are sort of like married, even though they're not. They are a couple. That's a different thing. I shouldn't have to explain to anybody about my partner or my lover or my spouse or my wife or my husband. I shouldn't have to explain about anything like that, okay? Why? Because that's a different scenario. That person, me and that person live together. We are a family ideal. So that's different. But when you start talking about dating and meeting different people, and you may date this person for 1 month and date somebody else another month, and this person 6 months, and back and forth, and it's just all over the place, that's a whole different situation. Another thing, let me address, since I am on that topic, is roommates that move individuals in. Okay, let's talk about that. Because I've been in that situation. I'm sure you probably been in that situation too, where you were a roommate with somebody and somebody come along and move somebody else in because that's somebody that they eventually get involved with, and they become a couple in a relationship, and they move that person in on top of you and them being roommates. So now you're like, okay, now this person is staying here, and what are they doing? Now this is how this should go, all right? Let's say, for instance, you're paying rent. You and this person have split rent. It's two of you, and y'all split rent between the two of you. If your roommate move another person in, which would be the third person, that rent is no longer split between the two. The rent should be split between three. Interesting, huh? In other words, if another person is going to come and stay there, then they should pay their share of the rent. And then everything should come back together where you do what? You do a contract. You sit down and you discuss this change in the arrangement. And the third person need to be added in the contract. Now, I don't know if you would take it as far as to add them on a lease as of yet, because it depends on how that relationship works out. They may be together today and gone and not together tomorrow. So you don't want to start putting people on leases. But you do want to do some type of contract that as long as they're there, they're going to be responsible for paying half their share of the rent, or paying a light bill, or buying food or something. They're going to have to contribute in some kind of way. They just can't stay there and you continue to pay your half of the rent, and another person is living there and they're not paying nothing because they happen to be your roommate's girlfriend or boyfriend. It doesn't work like that. All right. So that's how you deal with that scenario. All right. If someone moves someone in on top of you, that's how you should deal with it. And if they're not willing to deal with it in that way, then there needs to be another discussion on how you all need to part ways, and you need to begin to seek out other ways of living, or they need to seek out another way of living with their new partner or whatever, and you need to get another roommate. But it's something that needs to be dealt with, because it's not fair. It's not fair. All right. So you don't ever want to put yourself in that type of scenario either. All right. But to me, that's the wise way to deal with it. But Have adult conversation. All that arguing and fighting and back and forth, it don't take all that. Just sit down and have an adult conversation about the situation. Let them know how you feel about it. Let them know that they should be, that third person that they decide to move in on top of y'all should be responsible for helping out in some kind of way. And then you need to find out in what way are they going to help. Now, if they turn out to be unemployed, then we're right back to that same scenario. Okay, so that means that this person is unemployed, then that means then where you're going to pick up the slack, because now the light bill is going to go up. Now the food is going to go up. Now things are going to go up. So where are you willing to pick up the slack since you moved that other person in here that's unemployed? What are you willing to do? Because I'm not going to cover my half plus cover for the extra things that's going to happen because you decide to move somebody else in on top of us. So this is the kind of discussion that you will need to have with a roommate if you ever find yourself in a situation like that. Okay. But I want to say that, I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot to you make you think twice. Do I really want a roommate and have to deal with all that? Yes. I mean, it's having a roommate could be a good thing. It's just that, these are the type of things you have to consider when having a roommate. A lot of times people don't consider the things that I just mentioned. They just move anybody in. They don't care if they know their name. They don't care if they know any association that they have. They don't care if they have a job. They don't care if they're trying to get involved with them intimately or whatever. They can care less about those things. And then the drama and all that starts happening. See, the things I'm telling you, if you deal with these things up front, it eliminates a whole lot of drama. That's really what this is all about. You want to eliminate as much drama as possible. And when you don't know people and allow people to do certain things, it creates drama because things get stolen, identity theft, things get stolen out the house, arguments between roommates and their friends, arguments between roommates and their lovers, wives and girlfriends, or whatever the case might be, arguments and all that because no one took the time to deal with the issues up front so they can move forward. All right? So it's important that you cover these things. I hope that I covered everything. But I say that having a roommate can work if you follow the suggestions that I've given you and the guidelines. You can have a great roommate plan, because what it's about you investing in one another. It's about you helping one another. Now the key is that when you get a roommate and you begin to do these different things, you have to be doing some things that for your future that you may not need a roommate, In other words, savings, investment, purchase, things that you need. If you need a car, that extra money that you may be saving, you can get a car. Or some clothes that you hadn't bought in a very long time, you can buy you some clothes. If a computer you need, you can buy you a computer. You see what I'm saying? That extra money should be saved and put back for the purpose of you accomplishing some goals that you want to accomplish. But if you find yourself in the same scenario and you had a roommate for a year or two and you in the same scenario after that year or two, you got a problem. And the problem may be that you're living above your means, because sometimes people do that. When they get roommates, they feel like they can get the higher rent. The more roommates they got, the higher rent I can get. You're just paying for rent. You don't want to do that either. You want to live in a nice place. You want to live in a nice environment. But you just don't want to come together to pay rent. Because, as I stated, rent can range anywhere from, for a one-bedroom apartment in the city in which I live, Atlanta. The one-bedroom apartment for a nice area, a nice place can range anywhere from $700 to $1,500 and up. And that is in a nice area, okay? And that's the kind of rent you will pay. And when you start talking about the hood, even in the hood, you can end up paying anywhere from starting at $485 to $900 in the hood. So, you don't want to get, ahead of yourselves, and because you got 4 roommates working, now y'all want to move out in Buckhead paying $2,000 a month in rent. Though that sound real nice and real cute, and because if you got 4 people, you're paying $2,000, you're looking at $500 a piece. You got to ask yourself the question: is you really saving? If you're paying $500, then if you can find a place paying, and I get it, we paying $500, but we staying in Buckhead. If you can afford $500 a month and you're able to do the things that I just mentioned as far as accomplishing your goals and your objectives to better you, to be a benefit and it'd be better for you in the future, then go for it. But what happens a lot of times is that individuals do this, and first of all, they choose the wrong roommates. So if you got 4 people and you choose the wrong roommates and you end up in Buckhead paying $2,000 a month and you got the wrong roommates, somebody's going to be left. Okay, somebody's going to be left out with nothing because somebody's going to move and lose their jobs, and you're going to be right back where you started from. So it's very important that you know who you're living with and you know who you're rooming with. Okay, and like I said, it doesn't matter about friends, relatives, or what. People are people. And like I told you, it's all about the mentality. It's not about the area per se. It's about the mentality of the individual. Because sometimes people can live in the Buckhead and got that hood mentality. Nothing changes. All right? I want to thank you for your time. You know who I am, AJ Copeland. This is Topics to Go. You can check me out on Facebook, True Self Motivations, or you can check me out on tag True Self Motivations, Andrew B/Andrew B. You can check me out there. I would like for you to leave your comments, and I want you to rate my videos, and just continue to watch my videos, and I hope this be a benefit to you. I enjoy sharing this with you, and remember, whenever you have free time, catch a talk with two. Later.